Welcome to another episode of The Future Fast. I'm with NABEEL RAJAB, Technical Solutions Architect for Cisco in South Africa. Welcome, NABEEL.
Thank you so much, Arthur.
We're going to be talking about cybersecurity in the cloud, and in particular, the Cisco Hypershield solution. But before we go there, give us a sense of why cybersecurity has become so critical in cloud computing.
So the cloud it's a very interesting space. If you think about all the different ways we consume cloud services today, everything's built on the cloud. If you think about it, it's such a key component of how we deliver, services and tools, applications to users, whether those are public users or even internal to specific organizations. And it's really given us that ability. If you think about the cloud itself, it's given us that ability to be able to reach people and reach users where we couldn't reach them before, for one. And on top of that, it allows us to do that rapidly at scale. So when we think about these aspects of cloud delivery, of cloud computing, we have to think within those or that sphere or that realm in order to understand how to protect these types of workloads, how to protect those types of environments. And what we're noticing today is that it's very, very difficult to be able to keep up with this environment because of the scale of it and because of the rapidly moving nature of these types of environments. And this is really the crux of the challenge around securing these spaces. We see the adoption of new types of tools, new applications all the time. And for us to be able to adapt and maintain the level of protection that we need for the industry, it becomes quite a challenge. So I would say the speed and scale that the cloud has moved at is really one of the critical areas that needs to be focused on, is being focused on, but needs more to be done.
How does Hypershield address this challenge?
So Hypershield is probably one of our most fascinating solutions or products that's come out in terms of the cybersecurity space within Cisco, for I would say our entire history, because it's really a fundamental shift in how we're actually approaching cybersecurity in the cloud and for modern use cases. So the one area that's really exploding, as everyone would know, is in terms of AI, machine learning, and all the tools and applications that are coming out of this. Now, when you couple the change in these in this area and the fast-paced adoption of these types of tools and services, and then couple that with cloud and the challenges that are coming out of securing cloud spaces and cloud environments, it really becomes an exponential challenge on being able to secure these environments. And what Hypershield is attempting to do is be able to automate a lot of the security that's required in that space, but also understand and have deeper insights into these areas, without having too much or without needing too much human intervention, because humans just can't operate at machine speed the way we can do with things like AI and with automation, and that's what we're trying to do with Hypershield.
We hear a lot about the new cybersecurity solutions and how they use AI and how they're addressing the increased scale of the challenge that you talk about. Mm-hmm. How does Hypershield differentiate itself, or how is it different from other tools on the market?
So the one thing that is really prevalent, when you look at the entire cybersecurity industry, is it grew and it continues to grow very organically. And what I mean by that is the solutions that are out there, they have been built on top of for the longest time. So whenever there is either a vulnerability or a specific let's say weakness or a threat that's prevalent in the industry, we tend to develop, generally across the industry, we tend to develop a solution for it and then apply that solution on top of existing models, on top of existing technologies. And what we've done with Hypershield is we have reimagined how to protect our environments from the ground up, building AI native capabilities from the ground up, completely reimagined. And that's never been done before. AI has always been added on top of existing technologies. And I think that is one of the key differences in this case.
What specific threats does Hypershield address?
So the threats that we are sort of targeting right now, or that we have rather seen to be quite pervasive and exploding quite exponentially, are very fast moving, you could call them 0-day threats that we don't necessarily know they're out there. If you think of vulnerabilities that are prevalent in the industry across different technologies, when an exploit is released, or when an exploit is now seen because of a specific vulnerability across a certain type of technology, it takes us a long time to be able to look at how to fix that, how to patch it, and then deploy that patch to our technologies or to our infrastructure. And what Hypershield does is it allows us to be able to adapt and protect ourselves from those threats without having to go through the long cycles of having that that patch released. So really, where we're seeing there's going to be a huge improvement in response times, and also one of the key things we're trying to address are those 0-day threats or vulnerabilities and exploits that come out every single day, right? I think on a daily basis we see tens of CVEs and exploits being published around the globe. So it's really trying to address those types of challenges.
And what about emerging kinds of attacks? You talk about the new exploits, but a lot of those are based on what we already know about cyber threats. How does Hypershield address the new generation of threats that are emerging, especially those that are driven by AI being used by the bad actors or the threat actors?
Yes, yeah, that's a great question. So what we're seeing is that because of the adoption of new technologies like AI, there are also a lot of malicious activities and threats that we've never seen before. I think a lot of people are aware of some of the deep fake threats and events and incidents that have been perpetrated recently, and those are the kinds of things that we've actually never seen before, and we don't necessarily know how to handle, how to protect against, and because of this new emerging world that we're living in, we're trying to make sure we have this platform that will allow us to adapt to those types of things coming out all the time. So yes, 100% in terms of AI, we want to understand, and we want to be able to protect ourselves at the scale that those threats are coming out, and with the ingenuity that those threats are coming out. So we have to be able to firstly try to stay 2 steps ahead, because of the fact that a lot of these bad actors are working so quickly, and they're really using the same tools against us. We need to be able to have those types of capabilities as well.
So this really does address a lot of the challenges and concerns that businesses are facing. But I can already hear people saying, but this sounds expensive. It sounds like we're going to have to hire entire new teams or train entire new teams. So what is your answer there? How do you ensure ease of use or ease of evolution and of an existing business with an existing cybersecurity posture adapting to this new environment and to your new tools?
Yeah, and Arthur, we've seen this over many years. Change is difficult. We have large organizations, mature organizations who are very difficult to steer sometimes. We have new organizations, startups that can't necessarily adopt technologies as quickly as some of these more mature organizations. So there's challenges on both sides, right? At both sides of the scale when we look at our customers, and that's why we are trying to make it as easy to adopt as possible by using a lot of different layers of automation. AI is going to play a huge role in that. Going forward, we don't necessarily want to be at the point where a human needs to do every single thing that a solution entails. We want to be able to firstly use AI to monitor, to understand the environment, to be able to adapt to any anomalies and changes within that environment, and then be able to apply those changes itself without having a lot of human intervention. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have that trust to be able to hand off that capability or that the tool so that it can just do whatever it wants within your environment. We need to earn that trust, and that this is why Hypershield has been built on a CI/CD model where it's iterative. It learns, it allows.
Can you just explain for our audience what that means?
So CI/CD, sort of like a DevOps approach, an iterative, it's a constant release model where you're not necessarily having to design and define the entire solution from end to end and deploy it in a long cycle. We can actually make small changes and be able to effect those changes on a regular basis, on a very quick cycle basis. So this is what we're employing with Hypershield as well. We're allowing the system to first understand what is happening in the environment, to baseline that, and then moving forward to be able to report on any of those anomalies that it might see without having to make any changes itself. And once that is now alerted on, we can then, as we move forward, allow whoever is responsible for those environments, the team members that can actually define that, hey, these are acceptable changes that need to be made, and we're allowing the tool to make those changes. So the trust is earned going forward. It's a very iterative learning process, and we're using the system itself to handhold these teams, large or small teams, to be able to roll out the solution going forward.
What are the technical requirements within an organization to be able to adopt Hypershield?
So Hypershield is really, it's a cloud delivered tool. There's nothing necessarily we need to deploy from a management, from a let's say a rollout perspective. We are employing very lightweight small agents that will sit within workloads, within your physical and virtual and cloud environments, very small pieces of let's say infrastructure, software-based infrastructure that will now tie into a central management console that is then managed from the cloud, and really it's a matter of understanding firstly what you are trying to achieve in your organization, what protections you are trying to implement, and that's really why we are sort of and it's the journey that we've been on for the longest time, right? It's all about intent. It's all about the intention that you have for your organization, because every organization is going to have a different intent, and every organization will have different patterns, and this is what the tool itself will learn. It will understand those patterns and be able to adapt to those patterns, be able to recognize when those patterns are now changing, and then help the teams understand that these are the changes. Are those changes necessary or are they malicious? And then effect those changes going forward. So yes, the components themselves are quite, I would say, small rudimentary pieces of the puzzle, but the way it all ties together, it's really, that's where the power comes in. If you think about how we used to do perimeter protection before, and still do today to some extent with firewalls, we used to send events and traffic towards those firewalls in order for inspection and in order to understand, traffic behaviors and understand if there's any incidences happening within the organization. Well, now what we're saying is we don't necessarily know when that's going to happen, and we need this completely distributed. Now, to go and deploy a firewall next to every single workload in the cloud, on premise, toward near your applications is virtually impossible. And that's why what we've done is we've taken this software-based approach where we deploy very small pieces of, and what we refer to as agents, very small pieces of the puzzle, closer, completely distributed, very close to where your workloads and your actual applications are, and manage it from the same workspace. So if you think about having maybe one or two firewalls traditionally, we now have almost the same capability developed from the ground up using AI, but thousands of them all over your environment. And that's kind of the approach we're taking with Hypershield.
And at the other end of the scale, for a small business, how appropriate is it?
So I think regardless of the size of an organization, the real importance today is the fact that these bad actors, are not really looking at whether you're a large organization or a small organization. It's a completely these vulnerabilities, these threats that you see out in the industry. It's a completely commoditized approach. It's a whole industry on its own, and there's really no prisoners are taken. So whether they are large organizations or small organizations, they're still prone to these types of attacks. And in fact, any organization that isn't protected is almost like a test bed for these bad actors to understand how to infiltrate organizations from small to large. And that's why it's really critical that everyone is protected and protected in the right ways. And that's why we're trying to make this as easy to scale. So you start small and you can scale out. Very easy to deploy, very easy to consume. From the SaaS-based approach perspective. So it's really, we're trying to make this as easy to adopt from small organizations all the way to large organizations.
What future developments or updates are planned for Hypershield to enhance its capabilities?
So that's a really interesting area that we're looking in right now. Is where we are today is it's purely software, and it's being deployed either with an agent. We refer to it as our Tesseract agent. That is a small little, as I mentioned, little piece of the puzzle, that communicates back to the cloud controller. And how we actually deploying Hypershield today is either on a VM or container, or using the Tesseract agent. Where we're going forward with this is we're going to be able to deploy the protection capability of Hypershield even down to a hardware level, using these sort of agent type deployment or agent type form factors on things like DPUs. So that is a data processing unit, which can be found on a server or a network card on within a server infrastructure, or even going forward on smart switches as well. So this capability, as it's distributed, completely broken down to small segments and distributed across your environment, will be able to live on switches within the network, on servers close to workloads, or even in those applications that are hosted on operating systems themselves, where these agents live today. So it's really going to be pervasive. There's not going to be an area of the environment that is overlooked, and we're trying to leave no gaps within your environment, so that the monitoring capability, the analysis happens everywhere. It doesn't just happen, as we see today, on the network and the network traffic. We want to be able to see everything from the network all the way down into the application stack itself and on the kernels, so we can make the most informed decisions, and so that we can do this in near real time. There's no need, as I mentioned before, when we have something like a day zero attack, to wait for a firmware upgrade, to wait for a patch to come out to fix the vulnerability, for example, or to be able to defend against a day zero attack. We want to be able to at least put some measures in place right now when we see those events happening, and then it buys us time to be able to make further changes, either on the network or on the application side as well. So this is where we're going. We're purely in software right now, but we're even looking at the hardware aspect going forward as well.
Talking of hardware, you mentioned DPUs, data center processing units in effect, which in future are going to be AI chips. And on the other side, the hackers, the threat actors, are going to be using their version of AI chips, the cheaper ones that go into computers, laptops, and even smartphones, which suggests that there's going to be a dramatic shift in the coming years in the nature of the threats, but also the nature of the defenses. So how do you see AI changing cybersecurity in general for both the attackers and the defenders?
Yes, this is the eternal fight, right? That we're having. It's really who's going to be one step ahead, and it seems that today, the attackers are a little bit, advantage. They have a slightly more advantageous position because of the fact that there's these new models, these new systems that have been sort of released into our lives, and they've taken advantage of them, right? They've taken advantage of deep fakes, they've taken advantage of large language models, they've inserted certain types of threats into these new systems and these new models, and it's for us to now be able to counteract that. So I think the future is going to be a very challenging one, but I think we are getting there, and we're quite ready to be able to take on that challenge, because we are very, I would say, very capable of using the same technologies, the same AI, the same models to protect ourselves against these types of actors. And then we're seeing that now, and we're starting to put those pieces together. And I think we're doing across the globe. There's been a lot of interesting solutions that have come up. Hypershield is just one of them, because it's in the area that we're really focusing. But yeah, I think for the future, there's going to be a lot of interesting dynamics at play, and I definitely think you should watch this space. Yeah.
Ready for the future. Are you ready for the future? Thank you, Nabil.
Thank you so much, Arthur.